Ladies and gentlemen, I gladly introduce to you the engineering mistress, your porn princess, the real defender of gender equality, La Boricua Bella, Mercedes Carrera.
A book I want to you about, and is by Gavin Newsom, and it's called Citizenville. He wrote it 10 years ago, and I have read multiple political tomes in my time here. I've read, I don't know how many books. That's all I do all day. I read political books. I've read the entire history of Europe, especially the Romanovs. I've read multiple political biographies, especially politicians, especially presidents, right? And so I received Citizenville because I thought to myself, well, let me read the book that was written, or at least ghostwritten by, whose name is attached to the next, who I think next president of the States, right? Mm-hmm. And, you know, I've read Trump's books. I have to tell you, I'm not impressed by Trump's book. I'm just not. You know, there is a lot of bombast, a lot of, oh, you could do it, be a leader, Trump the opposite, kind of what I expected. And so I received Citizenville, expecting very little, or expecting kind of a treatise on how the government treats people. And I received the opposite. It's actually a book about how citizens can fill in the gap where the government is failing. And he was self-deprecating, extremely willing that where the government fails. He was also extremely complimentary toward movements that are anathema to the Democratic Party. Like, for example, he was saying that he admired the Tea Party. You know, the Tea Party was kind of a big, and I was shocked. He was also saying that he thought it is that social and the internet filters out opposing viewpoints, because that's a big problem right now. That's a huge problem right now. And a lot of times, people will say, it's like there's that article out there about how I'm a fascist, and yeah. I love that. I love how they think that a Puerto Rican porn star is a fascist. Put that together. Wrap your head around that. Yeah. Anyone who has watched my work for years, how do you even comprehend that? Okay, a Puerto Rican porn actress. I was one of the first who worked with the transsexual example, right? And they're calling me a fascist. When actually I risked blacklist for working with an entire community, and yet they're calling me a fascist because I'm friends with Gavin McInnes. Now, Gavin and I did a lot of points, but that doesn't mean he's not a friend of mine, right? And so here's Gavin Newsom saying exactly what I've always thought, which is to have friends that have opposing viewpoints, because that's what makes political discourse interesting. And so he made these in his book that I really admired. He brought up a lot of historical points. Like, for example, when Thomas Paine's Common Sense came out back in 17, huge seller. It's a difficult read for modern people because several hundred years ago, you're talking years ago, basically, a little less than, this is a book about liberty, or a pamphlet about liberty. Read it. Get a copy of it. You can download it online. People are very, very engaged, really affected. And the average person now, they're on, cats climbing. They're not engaged politically. It's not fun. And like he pointed out, Gavin Newsom pointed out, how can we use that? And so this is a great book that I'm actually thoroughly shocked. And I was really transparent about some of it. It's a reading just going, wow, this is very interesting. Was some of it ghostwritten? Probably. But just the fact that he was wise enough to attach it says something. Because I've read a lot of books by a lot of politicians, and most of them are garbage. Or they're self-aggrandizing garbage. Even worse. Look, Trump, I know you like Trump, but his books are just trash. I've read most of them. They're the kind of stuff that you sell at the seminar, and it's crap. It makes Trump money. But I've never once read it and gone, oh, wow, I'm going to take from that. Because I've read tons of them like that. Yeah, I read The Art of the Deal, and I thought it was crap. Because I've read 10 books like that. And it's all, well, you gotta show him who's boss, be the boss, But I've never read, because I don't like books like that. I like books that have some sort of historical value. Like, okay, here's an example. In Citizenville, cited a bunch of companies that found ways, governmental historical data, and utilize it in new ways, creative ways. So his book reminded me a lot of, actually, there's an author named Malcolm Gladwell, really great author. He wrote Stephen Goliath, Outliers. Outliers I just read. I've read a few of Malcolm Gladwell's works. And actually, Newsom cites Gladwell in his work. And in Outliers, Gladwell mentioned Bill Joy. Bill Joy is one of the greatest minds in Silicon Valley. And says work. Bill Joy has a maxim that most of the smartest people are working for someone else. So he brings that up, and he cited, and I thought, here's a good author, smart people, smart ideas from other places. Whereas like Trump, his work, he won't do that. He won't give credit to him. To me, that's a bad book. Exactly. And so that's where a book is memorable when it will take idea sources from other places together. So most of the books I read are of historical value, and they're all cited. So there's citations where I got. Whereas like most business books, the authors are egomaniacs, and they're like, no, I'm telling you, this is art of the deal, or you got to think big, and it's just a bunch of crap. It's just this guy kind of spouting off his mouth. Those aren't memorable books. And usually the ideas aren't new, and they won't give credit to where they information, right? So, anyway, Citizenville was surprisingly good. And it also, what it did for me, because the whole time I've been thinking, well, Gavin Newsom next president. There's no way they can drag, weekend at Bernie's through another 4 years. Like, the guy's a warm over court.
Is Gavin about?
No, but it's going to happen. Because there's no way. Weekend at Biden's is not, he's not going to do it. So, and Gavin Newsom, I think he's going to be next president. Right now he's the governor of California. What? I actually think after his book, I watch him here all the time. Right now he's in China. I think he'll do a better job than stand. One thing Trump is right about is that, he picked a fight with you. You want to piss off half of the pick a fight with you, really. And he's spirited. I don't like this. I don't think it. And he's taller. So he's taller and he has better hair. Anyway, part of the reason I'm bringing all this up, I realized that if I want to get out of here, I need to talk probably directly to, one thing my parents always taught me was the top. So working within this does not work. I have for 4.5 done everything I can to try to, I'm on a fake warrant. Part of the reason to get out is that once I brought this to light, nobody wants to work, that's why my last trip quit. He actually yelled at me, like basically jumped up and down, yelled at me personal, and then quit. Now I'm stuck, and I'm asked when everyone help me contact, because he claims he wants to help people. Gavin Newsom has a bone to pick with the sheriff of Riverside, Chad Bianco. And likes to make a public of himself. But the irony, Riverside County, San Bernardino County is twice as corrupt, twice as people die in the jail. I'm in is black, and yet nothing about it.
You would tell me medical is shit, prison instead of death.
We're in the county jail. We're not even a convict.
I'm
not going to. I'm not a person. Yeah. And they do not, the medical care is subpar. I had to for weeks to get a package of ibuprofen. They would not give me ibuprofen. I sleep on a mattress on top of
You have 1 minute left.
My mattress is literally 1 inch. It looks like the kind of mat that you would put in a dog crate. I'm not kidding. Like, dogs have better sleeping mattresses. I've gotten COVID 5 times in this jail, and every single time I've gotten it, I have no medical whatsoever. Not even cough drops.
At least
they don't give you anything. Nothing. I stopped telling them when I had, because every time I told them, I would get police cell in their quote-unquote medical. Yeah, so you learn not to tell them that because you get punished. That's how it's subpar of medical. San Bernardino County Jail, not only this, but the sentence in San Bernardino County is absolutely compared to Riverside County Jail. Now look, Chad Bianco is an attention blowhard. He said, if you don't want COVID in jail, don't come to jail. He actually said that. Like we all go to jail. Now, I'm being held on $2 million bail. That is the same bail hold that they put a cop killer. This guy killed 2 police officers in Los Angeles. His bail is $2 million. So evidently, San Bernardino thinks that I am a threat to the populace as a guy who killed police officers. Now, I have no prior record. I hadn't even had for like over 10 years. There's zero evidence on my case because nothing happened. The detective on my case even bothered to get a legal warrant. That's part of the reason I was grabbed outside of the complex in which I was residing. They made me come outside, and then they forcibly grabbed me and took my phone and handcuffed me because they didn't have a legal warrant. Otherwise, they would have used the warrant to get inside the gate. Okay, so everything they did to me is illegal, and they know it, and that's why nothing's been brought to task. Nothing. So I've been sitting in here for over 4.5 years on an illegal search warrant, illegal arrest warrant. Okay, and I suspect that they out here all the time and do when they have you in custody. They go, well, we'll make her life sentence.
Yeah.
Because once you're living in a facility that is infested with black and flies, you start to, and then in your housing, they'll put you in housing, and then they'll say, okay, well, kill yourself, or we'll put you with suicide to get out of this. That's how this. And then you go to court, and your lawyers go, oh, we're not ready, because you can't, as an in custody, cannot compel you to go to trial. That's how that works. This is why, the agent said, oh, she really liked being in jail. She really goes to trial. Yeah, that's not how that works. When you're an inmate in custody, you have no control. So, yeah, because I'm going to go to court with handcuffs around my ankle and tell them, yes, we're going to trial next. I don't have that level. I am chained up. I might as well have a ball gag. This is working with, and this is what Californians don't do. And there's no spotlight on the county level. So now my only option is, hey, Gavin Newsom, Rob Bonta, take a look at it. And if you're not going to look, I can write all the letters I want, but this happens behind closed doors, right? Nobody takes a look at this. Like, I can send all the letters I want, but they can throw them in the trash. So this is where I need you and I need everyone to tweet at them. Part of the reason that they have me is they don't want me out there creating havoc, right? So that's part of the reason that my bail, because they claim, because they don't want me to abscond. But the reality is they don't want me on Twitter. They don't want me making a fuss, right?
Right.
So I am asking anyone tweet at Gavin, tweet at Rob Bonta, and let them know that if not for me, fine, you might hate me, you might think I'm a fascist, you care about this, and that it's Black West Valley Detention Center, and that there's a number who are attracted out of it, and are set at a disproportionately high rate, with higher sin than white people, then let them know this is not fair. It's not fair to end this stuff, and they should know that. And they're giving Chad Bianco a hard time, which, fair enough. But why isn't Shannon Dickens under the gun, too? Because he should be. Because he might be quieter, but he's just as malevolent. So why isn't anything about that? And there's an attorney named Terrell, Apple Valley, and my interest in documenting lawsuit against West Valley paper every now and then. But it's a very reaction. He waits for it to happen, a lawsuit, and I say that's not good enough. That's not good enough, because this shouldn't be happening at all. Why is it that 30 miles west of in Los Angeles County, Gascon is actually, you know what? We don't need incarcerate. We don't need to hold people on bail board. And then 30 miles east, they say, okay, let's incarcerate pre-trial. And I let Gavin Newsom know, hey, I have a bit of sour grapes about this. For over 2 years, I was held here without a trial because of your COVID policy. That's unjust. And that's part of the reason I received COVID 5 times in the facility. Nobody did. I have a hemolytic because of this. That's a problem. I came perfectly. My health has been permanently. I wouldn't believe it if I hadn't experienced. I am just inside of the jail of the detective who arrested now loaded up the sergeant inside of the jail, and the detective or the deputy who watch us and write me up for minor infraction. I received a 10-day for not wearing my scrub shirt under my jacket while it was zipped up. Nobody else received that. I hadn't received other people don't wear their scrub shirt, their jackets zipped up all the time. Don't receive, and yet I received a 10-day for that minor infraction. Doesn't that seem like targeting?
Here's a video. It doesn't matter what people think of her. She is right to highlight. She is living in a county that professes to be about liberty, justice, and has held her in jail, held an innocent person until proven guilty for 4.5 years and counting. That is not reflective of the words liberty and justice.
Absolutely. Well, absolutely. And this is my problem. Look, when I talk about horseshoe politics, this is my problem with Republican ethos as it stands right now. Because the Republicans are, they talk out of both sides of their mouths and say, well, we're liberty and justice. Oh, except for if we don't like you dirty stick whore. You see? Because if I was white, even if I was a meth head, I would have been out of here. I've watched it happen. I could have been a white meth head whore who killed her baby, and I would have been out of here. That's how this county works. And this is where the social justice advocates are correct. These people out here are racist. They are a bunch of racists. That's how San Bernardino, and this is where I agree with the Democratic social justice advocates. I can't stand San Bernardino. I've watched it. So, yeah, liberty and justice, sure. Give me a break. I've watched since I talk out of their mouth. They'll say liberty and justice, will also say law and order. Yeah, right. Okay, sure. They don't like me because I'm Hispanic, and they don't like me because of my, but mostly the way they feel is if it ain't white, it ain't right. That's San Bernardino.
That sounds frustrating.
They do a sheriff's rodeo, and they go out there and wear a cowboy hat. It's in the paper. Yeah. I mean, they literally think they're a bunch of cowboys. And that's why they act the way they do. That's why they go into people's homes without search warrants. They go, we're just going to cowboy up. We'll find what we need to find, and if we don't find it, well, we'll invent it. That's how they think. That's how they think out here.
Instead of actual crime that they...
Yeah, they don't. This is, and, so when you have law and order, actual law and order, they don't follow procedure. And I see it inside the jail all the time. They don't have any. The rules inside the jail day over day. You never know with any of them what the rules are. It depends on the staff as to what the rules are. That's the problem. So, like, one deputy will have one rule, another deputy will have another rule. It's a slight perfect example. I received a write-up for not wearing my green shirt under my sweatshirt, and yet I will see other inmates walking around without their green shirt write-up. No. Case in.
So, I mean, what punishment did you receive for?
I could not come out of my cell except for half an hour, and I could not use the phone. And it was just a way to keep me off the phone. I could only come out for half an hour to take a shower for 10 days.
And you could only shower once a week, you said?
No, I could come out of my cell to shower for 30 minutes once a day. But you guys have to understand, I'm locked in my cell 21 hours a day with another person. And when I say cell, you guys have to understand, these cells are feet by 10 feet, and they have a toilet and a sink. So I'm basically locked in a bathroom with a person for 21 hours a day. You guys have no idea how horrific conditions are inside this county jail. You get one set of clothes per week. You're locked in a bathroom all day with another person. You have 2 bunks, a sink, and a toilet. There are flies all over the jail. There's black mold. You're locked in a room for 21 hours a day with another person. People hear all these stories online. Oh, I heard it's not that bad, and you have tablets. You should go to the yard. That's prison, not county jail. So I went from being allowed out of my cell 3 hours a day to out of my cell half an hour a day, and no phone. And as it is, we have to share the phone. There's 3 phones. I'm lucky. I'm on it. Could be worse.
That's scary. Could get. I mean.
Oh, it has, and it has. I've been on far less people with far more people. They can always make stuff. That's why right now I'm trying to get information out right now while I have the opportunity, because it will not surprise me one bit if after I get this, we're always under risk. Absolutely. Like, I can get all this information out, and then all this.
Really surprise, yeah.
It's early. That's why I'm doing. I've learned to schedule because they listen to calls. They do this. Yeah. So this is why I'm asking a chair. Go ahead at Gavin Newsom, tweet at Rob Bonta. Let them know that they're they're arresting people on illegal search warrants. By the way, this was happening in Orange County, California, and they got caught. They finally got caught doing it. They were prosecuted, and it was a big deal, and it got blown up, huge case, and these prosecutors were eventually arrested. You can look this up online. See, I don't have the internet here either. They keep us off of all types of technology, but a friend was telling me about it, and they had to revise a bunch. It got reported, I guess, Bear's office. But Orange County is less corrupt. Keep in mind, it's a far more wealthy area. I'm from Orange County. I'm not from the Inland Empire. I'm not from San Francisco. This county is a shithole. And because Orange County is a nicer, better educated, wealthier, they looked into it, and they ended up having to revise prisons and release. I had my warrant reported to Internal Affairs. It went nowhere. Why? Because this county is corrupt. They're all covering.
So I just did a Google search.
Yeah.
And it says San Bernardino County paid out more than $4 million to settle lawsuits alleging that for years, dozens of inmates, especially food servers at West Valley, were subjected to a pattern of routine taser torture by deputies as part of a brutal hazing.
Oh yeah, that's just daily, that's just fun for them. That's nothing.
Okay, LA Times. 32 inmates awarded $2.5 million in abuse settlements involving Rancho Cucamonga jail.
You have 1 minute left.
Right. And that's just the jail. Keep in mind, that's just the microcosm. Now, talk about the macrocosm of this, because that's just how. That's just where I'm having the deputies, right? Imagine the bigger scope of CA, the prosecute, all of them. They care about our faith. They don't. Gavin Newsom there's an interesting part of it where he talks about the good old boy network. This is what happens with government when it's on page 104. And that's exactly what happens with government procurement. And government, for example, when the government hires, attorneys to represent inmates, right? So they get into this lackadaisical. Gavin Newsom is a great part of this where he's talking about government procurement and the good old boy network and exactly what's going on for example, the government procures attorney for defendant, and there's absolutely zero incentive whatsoever to help defendant at all. What's the incentivization for it? Why would an attorney want to help clear their name? What's in it at all? If you're a defense attorney, all of your friends are prosecutors and judges, and so the general pie you want to prosecute quote-unquote criminals, right? So they go to court, they collect their fees from the bucket, the same pile, the same ledger that the judges and the prosecutors, and the tone in the courtroom is really hostile to defendants, especially if you're a defendant in custody, because they bring you into like you're already, and so the attorneys are like, oh, fuck these people, they're terrible people. We're gonna make a point of prosecuting them. There's absolute behavior, and so, and then it's kind of like county or state welfare for these attorneys, because as long as they keep showing up to these visits in their base, and so it becomes good old boy network. And when Gavin Newsom was talking about it, he was thinking about it more as kind of the way the government bureaucracy is set up in terms of healthcare management, data, or what have you. But inmates become kind of the cogs or the product in the system, right? Because you're talking about people, right? So, like, my education was Six Sigma. Like, I actually manufacturing, so it's kind of applicable, except that we become like the piece part, or now the piece part in the system. And it's terrifying to watch. It's really terrifying to watch this because you realize you're like, wow, it's a human farm, or it's actually a human factory, and there's absolutely no incentive for an attorney to want to exonerate people, especially now, because unless you're talking about like a really high-powered client, like a Trump or somebody like that, high-powered, like sports, they can charge these millions of dollars to defend. There's no reason, really, to want to exonerate, right? And so this is terrifying, because most of these attorneys now, they'll be public, or they'll do what they call conflict pay them to defend people. And they're independent attorneys as conflict, they get paid by the state as outside attorneys. Mm-hmm. But their goal then is always to settle, or even if they take it to trial, it doesn't really matter to them if they win or lose. But they're not getting hired for their money. So if your money's coming from the state, then you can play nice with the judges in the process, because most of the time it's you see. So the whole system, every single lost. That's a real problem. You can't tell me that 95% are arrested, but that's how they. Yeah. That once you're arrested, basically you got in the way of that title. Now that's a problem. And so this is going back to kind of what we're talking about, society, liberty, and justice, what have you. We are right back right now where the colonists were in 17. Right now, this is exactly what caused a revolution, because people were being arrested, charged with things, taxed. That's why they were unhappy. They thought it was unfair. They thought it was terribly unfair, except it was a smaller society. But, this is why there are movements, like, I understand better now. This is why there are like Black Lives Matter, because if your demographic proportionately affected, it makes sense. It's unfair to you. And this is a real problem, too, that as somebody's thinking about it, I've been going, you've got to be kidding me. I thought I got arrested. I was like, oh, they'll go through my stuff. They'll find out that I'll be out of here. The first attorneys I talked to, they were like, we'll get this handled a couple weeks, couple months, years. Now it's been, I had a real faith when I was arrested. I don't anymore. I had a real faith in the country when I was arrested. I don't anymore. I understand why people, it makes sense. I understand why people, that makes sense. Absolutely. I've had a lot of I had a cop say to my face, oh, well, this guy goes, I said, how are you? And he goes, fine. I said, oh, well, how are you? As well as I can. He goes, wouldn't have done something. I said, you shouldn't have done what you did. And I said, I didn't. He goes, oh, yeah, right. That's why. Actually, that's the attitude of a lot of them. This was a Latino, by the way. It wasn't a white guy. It was a Latino.
He must really hate his job. I mean, that's pretty. He actually really liked Boston. Yeah, there's a lot of it, guy. Oh,
Mexicano. Yeah, this is why they should have height requirements in my opinion. But because actually bigger guys are the. But I've had some interaction with cops. I understand a lot of it. The protesters don't like him. Yeah. Because that guy. Give that guy, absolutely a problem. 100%.
Yeah, I mean, I've been watching a lot of police interaction videos on YouTube and TikTok, and it's like it gets you wondering, like, what the fuck is wrong with these guys?
Yeah, well, they're they're drunk. But this is, people don't believe it. And this is what scares me. Like I know you like Trump, but I don't need a president who wants to empower them. I need a president.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, it shouldn't be either or. It should be both and more.
Right. Well, that's what I like. When I read Gavin Newsom's book, I was like, you know what? This guy's actually really moderate. Because I was expecting her progressive and really moderate. Because even when the last election, everybody was saying, "Oh, Trump's got this, Trump's got this." Every bit of me, no, it's going to be Biden. Biden's going to win. And and everyone was mad at me for saying it, but I was right. And I really, really believe that Gavin is the next president. And I hope I'm very correct. I really better than Trump, I really do. Read this book. I'm serious.
What's the name of it again?
Citizenville.
Yeah,
I think everyone should read this book. I think Gavin Newsom is unfairly maligned by the press, and I think he's a lot more moderate than anyone credits. And I think he's better educated than Trump by far. And Trump has really rubbed everyone the wrong way, and it's divisive. I think Newsom unifier. And you know me, I mean, I'm generally a Republican, but I think that Newsom is a better choice for everybody. Because one thing I hate about Trump, especially right now, is he's so divisive at a time that we unify.
Well, I mean, you don't think Robert Kennedy Jr. is a good choice?
No, I think he's terrible.
Why?
I can't stand Robert Kennedy.
The man is jacked, though.
I can't stand.
Oh, that's not fair.
I know it's not fair. He's not.
What about the man himself? What don't you like about him?
Has he written a book?
Hold on, I check right now. Robert.
What has he done exactly?
He's Vax and Speak. He wrote a real.
So he wrote a book. Oh yeah, that's right. He's Vaxxer. I don't know. That's the thing. Everything I've seen on him going after the vaccine.
Oh, here it is. Censorship, COVID on science, and
yeah, but I hate anyone who makes their entire platform in contravention. Okay, so that's your entire platform. That's not. To me,
American values, lessons learned.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. There's definitely on the back of it. I don't know. Maybe. I mean, I don't know. I just usually people become president after they've been governor. That's generally the stepping. I don't know. Send me the book. I'm not convinced. Anyway, this conversation's not about Robert Kennedy. I mean, what else has he done? What else has Robert Kennedy done besides be a senator right now? Yeah. Well, the one thing that impressed me about Gavin Newsom was that he came from, a fairly upper class background. But he had a store in Williamton, kind of on the ground level, and that's not something you're not going to see Robert Kennedy go, "Hey, I'm going to open a store, and then I'm going to go out and meet." They don't do things like that. When did Robert Kennedy ever gone out held a public fair and met them in person? See, that's what I'm talking about. The reason I'm bringing this up is that what impressed me about Gavin, because I follow Gavin Newsom fairly in California, is he actually does things. Whereas Robert Kennedy and a lot of them, they like the national, but you don't see them in public. And one of my favorite presidents, you don't actually hear a lot about, but I think and doesn't kind of underrated is Harry Truman. And Harry Truman was one of the most accessible presidents. He was really honest about how difficult the job was. But incidentally, he lived one of the longest lives of the former president. He was great. So there's a great biography written about him by David McCullough, which I really think everyone should, if you have the time. And Truman owned a haberdashery.
What's the name of the book?
Oh, it's called Truman, and it's by David McCullough, or McCullough, McCullough. It's a Scottish name. Anyway, and it has a picture of him in profile on the cover. Yeah, it's nice, good book. But it talks, what I like about Truman, he came from a real middle class background, farmers from Missouri, so he's definitely more of the plebeian than Newsom. I think, a higher class background. His father was for Jerry Brown's family, so he comes from political elite. But where they're similar is that she owned a haberdasher. It was a hat store. Hat stores, clothes, kind of a, men's apparel. And he liked people. He was an extrovert. He was out with people. And he also had served in World War I, but he was a sergeant. He wasn't brass. And he always made himself accessible. And so he was kind of the, 20th century version of it. It was all about getting people back. What do you think? He would always have a staff meeting, and he kind of worked from the ground up. And he started with local politics and worked from the ground up. the White House. And fell into the White House kind of by accident, but he was part of what they called the Pendergast, which was kind of a corrupt organ in Missouri politics. But Truman was very likable, and
you have 1 minute left.
And that's where each other, and they really gave, Truman a hard time in the press. But I don't think he had the same panache and style. But he was all about and you haven't seen that scenario.
So, but how can you negotiate the way Gavin Newsom is running California to him being a good president?
Well, here's the thing. I think California is governable. As somebody who grew up here, I think that the way California is, Gavin Newsom. So I grew up in California. California is a somewhat ungovernable state. And I say this as somebody who's trapped in a county that is running itself like a little fly swatter, right? So this county has a bunch of laws that are completely unlike the county next door, the county north of it, right? That Gavin Newsom probably didn't even know about. Hell, the Attorney General probably is unaware of half of what happened. So each county has its own laws. And it's all been cobbled together. If you read the history of California, it's been ungovernable for the inception, right? So whoever takes on California is taking on the problems of California as it stands at that moment. It's always been a transit. Right now, it has, of course, it's gotten worse. A lot of that is a federal issue, right? The border is a federal issue. The state can only do so much with that, right? If the governor decides to act like outside of his own bounds, there's an arcane law that they're used that I actually read about this, that Gavin Newsom upset about. So some law, I think I told you about this, in Idaho or Oregon, where it was taken to court. If it does not have adequate campgrounds, then people are allowed to camp on the sidewalk. And that is what has massive health problems. You can look that up.
Yeah, I'm looking
at
it.
Yeah, so now, because of this, they're not legally allowed to remove the sidewalk. Isn't that crazy? And if they do, then the homeless advocates are filing. So there's government bureaucracy at work. Strange, right? So you have these kinds of now you have a that has what is like the 9th largest in the world. Something to contend with. This is a big fat clusterfuck. In other words, what are they supposed to do? And you have 70 courts. And you have different laws, and you have all these different actors with all their agendas. So I think it's a little unfair to say, oh, well, Gavin Newsom, that's your fault, that there's all these help. He actually, Citizenville, they used to have this program called Care Not Cash in San Francisco to give out $400 a month, or I think it's bi-weekly to the homeless. There's a massive homeless problem. Right. And he cut that to $59 every week because they realized this is not helping, creating more. And they started creating these fairs, health checkups, try to address the homeless problem in a different way, trying to solve that problem in a different way. The homeless lobby, it's crazy to say that, but the lobby to help the homeless threw a fit and just pilloried him about this.
Well, yeah, because because my god sister who has a degree in urban planning, she basically told me that it's a industrial complex. People are making money off homelessness.
Of course, because they set up these foundations, they're nonprofits, and then they claim that they're going to help the homeless and take state money, and then they go out and walk around on the streets and pretend to ask questions to help. But that's not helping these problems, right? Mm-hmm. So, this is, of course, it's an industrial complex. Of course it is. Mm-hmm. So,
I mean, that's why Skid Row is the way it is, from what I see.
Of course.
I mean, it's starting to happen here in New York City. You're starting to have these cities. When during January 6th, when I was in Washington D.C., I saw tents by government buildings those were homeless. I'm like, wait a minute. Even in our nation's capital, you have all these senators and congressmen walking past people sleeping in tents or just sleeping rough on the floor. And it was a cold night that night. It was really cold.
Oh yeah, of course. Well, I mean, look, you can't address this. Like, I didn't understand any of this until I came to be here around these people. And the root cause of all of this is despair and is a lack of desire to live. And if you're born into this kind of situation, why would you want to live? Mm-hmm. They don't want to live. So they do drugs, and then they live on the streets, and they do drugs there. And then eventually they'll get arrested, and they'll come in the jail, and they might clean up a little bit here because they have a shower. and they have 3 meals a day. But the drugs have fried their brain, and because of that, they steal things, and they beg for coffee while they're here, and then they go back on the street and use drugs again. And this is a cycle. And the drug use is a low-hanging problem. And until you can get them off the drugs, you can't fix it. You can throw as much money as on trying to rehouse you, but the drug using problem. And that's why, like, California spent billions upon billions of dollars on quote-unquote housing. And we have the houses. It doesn't matter. You can put them in houses, and what they'll do is they'll strip the copper out of the houses to go sell it for drugs. That's why, like, they put the homeless hotels that were not being used, and guess what? They get in there and they start stripping the copper out of the walls to go sell it for drugs. So they've just destroyed all these hotels.
Yeah, I used to work in do security at hotels that were converted for the homeless. Yeah. I mean, it's just that a lot of these people, they don't appreciate what's given to them. Even the ones that don't do drugs.
Yeah, and I mean, they're not using drugs; they're using alcohol. There's, and then there's some small percent of them that are just ill, but most of them, even if they're probably by drug use.
Yeah.
That's the reality. Look, I live around these. I'm in here with them. That's the part that nobody, what part of that was, and nobody wants to say it, but I'm in here with it. I have tons of years about it, know.
Yeah, and like you said, California is a transient state, and could that be because of all like the government assistance that's offered? People see that and they're like, okay, well, I'm just gonna be homeless in California. I mean, especially if the weather's nice all the time.
I think the weather would be nice. And, even historically, I mean, look, you go back to the 49ers. People would come out here during the gold rush, People came out here. I think anytime you have a coastal state, you've always had people coming and going. The 49ers, the Chinese even went. I just read a book about Kit Carson. Kit Carson was this Western frontier who took the Tejanos, the Texans, out to California, who became the original Marines to fight the Mexicans in like San Diego. I mean, it's a great book called Blood and Thunder. So there've always been skirmishes in California. There's always been fighting with the Mexicans. California's always had this very and you've always groups that fighting. It's just kind of the nature of California. And I think that whichever governor there, the problem with and having something always, and I think people want this is the problem. This is always the problem. This is why the left is screaming that Trump's a fascist, because there's a tendency for some actor to want to say, oh, well, I'm going to do an iron fist and I'm going to do this out. But the way this, whether it's at the local level and the federal level, set up to prevent that from happening, because we don't want it, right? We don't want to have a governor who says, oh, I'm going to stop it, and I'm going to rule and have that. But what we have, and I'll go back to what I think more over to prevent the kind of corruption that has floated, the problem with bloated bureaucracy corruption, where you end up with language for 4.5, and you end up with people walking away. Look up the San Bernardino, I think it's the water district. They have massive amounts of corruption, because then you can hide things. When you're able to hide things, bureaucracy, you're able to steal. And that's what happened in the Soviet Union. Everybody was layers upon layers of bureaucracy to steal, and it collapsed their state. And I think that's what America, the risk of having happen is that we end up more running the risk than having like a fascist. And, everybody wants to Gavin Newsom. It's been like this for a long time. Right now, it kind of, I think, pendulum, even in the 90s, it was like this. I grew up here. The 90s was just rather homeless, and then it cleaned up. And so that's, it ebbs and it flows.
I mean,
people forget, in the 90s, there was gang violence was horrendous.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the Bloods, the Crips, the 18th Street.
Yeah.
I hear that the gang violence is getting bad again.
Yeah, we're kind of having a return to the 90s. But, I mean, you want to blame the governor for that? Like, I live in, I'm here, but I grew up in Southern California. Sacramento is all the way in the north part of the state. Like, Sacramento doesn't, so. But, like I said, I mean, what I'm seeing now in the papers is Gavin Newsom. So I think he's next president. And if that's the case, then better him than anyone they have running. Yeah. Because I'd rather have him than Trump or DeSantis. Trump is entirely divisive. I mean, look at what they did to the House. I mean, they couldn't unify because Trump didn't like any. Like, is he a despot? Is he Stalin?
Oh, that's what they accused him of.
Yeah, well, that's a problem, though. I mean, look, so the Republicans couldn't get behind any of the moderate guys they put forth because Trump didn't like him. So they finally settled on a guy because Trump finally okayed that person. That's an issue. That's not how this is to work. That's an issue. You can't run a political party like that. That's a problem. Because look, here's a guy who's embroiled in the middle of a bunch of criminal cases, and all of his defense attorneys have rolled on him. So why are we still asking for this guy's permission? Because knowing what I know about the system, this guy's going down. So why are you guys attaching your wagon? What are you guys doing? That makes no sense. Like, am I missing here?
No, I don't think you are.
Like, Sidney Powell rolled on that guy, like, immediately, and yet everybody in the party is like, Daddy, may I? What the hell are you guys doing?
So who should people vote for 2024, though?
Gavin Newsom.
But he's not running.
He will be.
You think he's going to, when you think he's going to announce?
Probably when Biden dies.
When is Biden gonna die? When you think they're gonna kill him?
I don't know. maybe one of his poopy pants episodes was fatal. You know. I don't know. I mean, that's not the guy that we need leading us through World War III.
No. Oh.
And I mean, I don't like. Look, I mean, I know you talked about Robert Kennedy, but I don't want a guy whose platform is anti-vaccine leading us through the next World War. Look, I don't really like the vaccines either, but I just don't want that. I don't want that guy leading. So that's what I have to say about that. Also, you guys write to Gavin Newsom.
Right.
Tweet him.
TikTok.
Tweet him. Don't write. Don't snail mail. I'll snail mail. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if my snail mails ever actually get read.
Hey, you know it. From what I hear, when people snail mail, it counts as like what, 2 constituents.
I don't know. I always feel like they just throw them in the garbage.
I don't know. I've written to congressmen and senators snail mail.
Have you?
Yeah.
Do you ever get a response?
They're like smells like a spick into the trash.
That's what I'm talking about. I feel like that's what they do in mine.
Okay, wait. What's the last name? Is it, if it's, unless it, oh wait, you could probably get away with it. Your last name is Smith.
You know, it's funny, like someone said, oh, you need to write Rob Bonta and let him know that that you are a Latina. I was like, that did not work even on my student loan application. Because, in California, you're supposed to get priority student loans.
Yeah.
If you're Hispanic. I was like, that didn't work. Because I've checked the Latina box. They're like, fuck you. You are a white girl. You are a white woman. You're not approving that.
There's no way for me to get with it. I'm goodness. If I sent you a picture of me when I was working security at the US Open Tennis Championships, and you saw how dark I got, like, no, there ain't no me getting away. Like, oh wow. I was like Negro 5. That was how dark I got.
You have 1 minute left.
Well, this has been fun. Everyone go buy Citizenville. Actually, go buy it. It's a good book. I rarely recommend current politicians' books, but go buy it. It's actually great. Citizenville by Gavin Newsom. You know what? He should hire me. Like, he should actually hire me.
Yeah.
I would be a good advocate. He should at least write a letter to my district attorney, Gina Florick, and say, let her out. But tweet at Gavin Newsom and let him know that there's black mold inside West Valley Detention Center, and also my detective, Donald Patton, did not have search warrants against me, and I should be. But get his book. It's good.
All right.
He's going to be the president. I'm telling you. I'm calling it now. Okay. Thank you. Love you. Bye.
Thank you for using Securus. The caller has hung up. Thank you for using Securus. Goodbye.